Yes, good afternoon. This is Chaz Draycott in the commentary box here at Autodromo Nazionale Monza, falling over my own chair, doing an audio test, live on air, ready to go.
Ok, siamo in pista con la Clio Cup Series. Abbiamo visto che questa mattina hanno fatto qualifica dove c'era un po' di acqua in pista e quindi ci siamo. Allora intanto diciamo ufficiale, ma potrebbero esserci dei cambiamenti su più che altro per la prima gara, quindi cambio di settimana. Il 16 di aprile si dovrebbe aprire il campionato italiano Gran Turismo stagione 2023 solo a pista proprio quindi Monza per quanto riguarda la prima della serie sprint. Come di consueto ormai da circa 3 anni l'Endurance inizia a Pergusa il 21 di maggio, poi il 25 di giugno Misano con la sprint, 9 di luglio il Mugello Endurance. Il 17 di settembre si torna a Monza per la Endurance, 1 di ottobre Mugello Sprint, 15 ottobre Vallelunga Endurance e il 29 di ottobre chiusura della stagione Gran Turismo 2023 in quel di Imola. Ovviamente tutto
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Autodromo Nazionale Monza for another round of the 2022 Clio Cup Series. We're here in the wonderful Italian circuit just north of Milan, and we have got a very different set of conditions today. The Temple of Speed awaits, and after a very exciting and rather chaotic race yesterday, we're back for the second and final race of the weekend. My name is Chaz Draycott, and I'm delighted to be back here on site once again at Monza and with this incredible championship. We've had a bit of a rough day so far. There's been a couple of races ahead of ours that have been cancelled. There's been multiple delays and other things, but we're just about on schedule here for Clio Cup. It was all due to the weather that this morning was just not relenting whatsoever. It was very wet all the way throughout the morning, and the Italian F4 race earlier on got cancelled. David Pouget is on pole position for the second time this weekend. He had an absolute barnstormer over qualifying session, and it was actually quite an exciting one as well. We've got a very muddled up grid here for you this afternoon, so plenty to look forward to in that regard. However, the top three, or at least I'd say the top four, are drivers that we'd normally see up there. Nicolas Milan starts alongside David Pouget, the two of them both fighting in Clio Cup Europe, as mentioned yesterday. And I'll reiterate now, there are multiple championships within championships here in Clio Cup. We've got a lot of drivers registered and a lot of drivers on our grid. We have Clio Cup Europe, Eastern Europe and Italy here this weekend. There is Mark Guillot. He is currently at the top of the standings in Eastern Europe. Actually, no apologies. Anthony Girardo took over the lead of Eastern Europe yesterday after he finished second outright during the race. Mark is in a different car for this weekend. He tried it out last weekend as well, and he's feeling a bit more confident in it than his usual yellow car that we see him in. It is Leo Jousset's old car that he's going to be driving, but I think next time round he's going to be changing it back to his usual yellow machine. On the second row of the grid with him, we have Jerzy Spinkovic in car 125 for Unique Racing. Now, he and Nicolas Milan, starting fourth and second on the grid, were both taken out in an incident at the start of yesterday's race, as Adrian Schimpf missed his braking point and took out a number of drivers. But there was quite a lot of argy-bargy later on in the race. Yesterday's race winner, Felice Gelmini, will not start anywhere near the front of the grid. In fact, he's right down at the back in 43rd position, where his Clio Cup Italy rival Gabriele Torelli started yesterday. There was a breach of Parc Ferme by Felice and his team, and unfortunately he's had all of his lap times deleted, so he will not be starting anywhere near the front of the field. But we saw Gabriele Torelli yesterday make an amazing effort to come back through the order, and he came a long way back from 43rd on the grid to finish fourth outright. It's unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. So hopefully, for his sake, or for Gelmini's sake anyway, it's an easy drive back through the pack. An update as well on the incident that happened at the end of yesterday's race between Chen Han Lin and Juuso Pantia. Both drivers were absolutely fine. The first driver I actually found in the paddock afterwards was Juuso Pantia, and he's actually won the Challengers Cup in Clio Cup Eastern Europe, so there was a bit of a silver lining to what went on. Chen Han Lin was okay as well. He said he's just a little bit shaken up by the impact, and the Unique Racing and Carpex Services have both worked very hard overnight to get those cars back out for this race. This is the race officially underway, as you see by the timer. We usually have 25 minutes plus a lap, but due to the conditions, the race is starting under safety cars, so we are underway now. This is not just the formation lap. I'll run you through the grid and the current running order as it would be. It's David Pouget from Nicolas Milan, Mark Guillot and Jerzy Spinkovic on row 2. Andreas Stuckey qualified in 5th place, good stuff for the Swiss driver. Gabriele Torelli is 6th. Then it's Thomas Peccar, Mattia Lancialotti, who we didn't get much sort of viewing of yesterday. We were looking forward to see how he would get on. Anthony Girardot is down in 9th after finishing 2nd yesterday. Guillaume Maillot is 10th. Jusso Pantia 11th, ahead of Stefan Polderman, who didn't start yesterday's race due to an engine issue. That's why I was confused as to why he'd suddenly disappeared off the timing. He was never there in the first place. Alejandro Schimpf is 13th alongside Christian Ricciarini. Nikola Milkovic is down in 15th place with Adrian Schimpf joining him on row 8. Cosimo Papi and Steve Juif, I've had confirmation that's definitely his name, is 18th. Quinto Stefana 19th with Sandro Subak rounding out the top 20. Sandro Coutinho and William Mazzetti make up the 11th row of the grid, with Alessio Alcidi and Giacomo Trebbi making up row 12. Next up is Luca Franca, another driver that was very exciting yesterday. René Steenmetz is 26th. All he needs to do basically is complete a few laps of this race and he will be the gentleman driver champion within Clio Cup Eastern Europe. Henrik Siebel is 27th alongside Julien Bazire, 27th and 28th on the grid. Then we have Vittorio Zadotti 29th and Jacopo Jimenez in 30th position. Gianalberto Coldani is 31st with Frank Horn starting 32nd. Andrea Cordini and Due make up row 17 ahead of Damiano Pichetti and Alex Lancialotti. Yep, we're still going, there's 36 cars there. Mikel Fay is 37th ahead of Pietro Blumetti. In the 333 Press League by Oregon team car, today we have Stefano Cordara. Yesterday in that machine we had Paolo Piravano. It's Daniele Pasquale in 40th position, then it's Antonio Benedetto Silvestrini. Chen Han Lin, because he got 6th place penalty on the grid for the incident yesterday, starts 42nd. And 43rd, last but not least, Felice Gelmini, right at the back of the field. So here you see the wonderful shot then, looking all the way down that back straight towards what is now Curva di Alboreto. Used to be called, of course, the Parabolica, Curva Parabolica. Now is Curva di Alboreto. Puget leading the men behind the safety car, of course. Nicolas Milan behind, and then Mark Guillaume in 3rd. Jerzy Spinkovic hoping for some good points in this one if we get to full green flag racing, because after that incident yesterday, he was certainly a very frustrated young man. There's the 155 machine in the middle of the field, which is Coldani. Gianalberto in car 31 finished yesterday's race 16th position, but he finds himself 31st on the grid here with a lot of work to do. As you see, even with the rain not coming down anymore, the circuit is just not drying out at all, really. There's no dry line available. The previous race that went on, which was the Porsche Carrera Cup of Italy, was a very treacherous race. The cars were all over the show, as you can imagine there, with rear-wheel drive and a lot more horsepower, over double what these Clios have got. They're around 200 brake horsepower, these little cars. Very, very potent bits of kit, though. Always exciting to watch, especially in the numbers that we have here this weekend. 45 cars registered to start the weekend. We're down to 43, unfortunately, but still a very strong contingent of machines. We're told, as you see there at the bottom of your screen, that the safety car will be in this lap, so we will go green flag racing and we will get full pace out of these wonderful Clio Cup cars, the R5 Renault Clio as it is. One of the main changes going from the older or previous version of the Clio Cup car is that they've returned from having flappy paddles on the wheel for changing up and down gears to having a stick shift, so the drivers have to use their right hand to really go up or down a gear with a big clunk, as you should do in touring car racing, if you ask me. It's fantastic to see. So much of these races are done one-handed by these drivers. And I tell you what, I forgot to mention this yesterday. I had a chat with him in the paddock yesterday morning, but Anthony Girardot, the man that finished 2nd yesterday, he's got a badly injured right hand for this race meeting. Not on purpose, of course. He had an accident only a couple of days into the week, and he's got his right hand not quite in a cast, but he's got it at least all bandaged up and all wrapped up, so it's rather stiff. But he was still racing with that yesterday and still managed to hold off and have a battle with David Puget and with Felice Gelmini and score himself a podium. Shows you just what a talent Anthony Girardot really is. That, and he won the Clio Cup race yesterday to take his 10th podium and 7th race win. He's the most winningest driver of the lot in that category anyway. So, safety car in. Yellow flags go in, green flags and green lights all shining and waving. And off we go. Clio Cup Europe underway across the line then, here at Monza. This is the 24th race of the season. 28 races will continue to fill our year. After this we go to Paul Ricard and then Catalonia in November. Let's see who makes turn one then. Spinkovic is side by side with Stuckey in the middle of all that, and Guillaume's had a bit of a tap off Stuckey as well, goes sideways on the exit. Andreas runs a little bit wide. We've got one of the Autodromo cars going off, and somebody's very slow on the exit. Is that Lancialotti? It's not, it's Stefan Polderman. Stefan Polderman had engine issues yesterday and the car did not start the race, and he is now almost stationary at the side of the road. Hopefully nobody clips him. He's crawling to a halt already. He's only done a couple of corners. So Paget continues to lead, but look at them. They're not taking a racing line. They're in the middle of the road trying to avoid any wet patches as Andreas Stuckey gets shoveled out wide to the right-hand side. Let's hope the rejoin is favourable. There was a very dodgy one earlier in the Porsches. Torelli flashing his lights at Jerzy Spinkovic, clearly not happy about something. Stuckey, well, gets straight stuck in again. Down the inside of Thomas Pekar, that was, in the 101 machine. Round the first of the two Lesmos they go, and as always Anthony Girardo looking feisty, moving one way then the other. And we have had official confirmation from race control that car 21, which is Stefan Polderman, is stopped in turn one. Now leading the gentleman drivers so far in this race, as you see by the blue little stripes next to their name on the left, is Quinto Stefana. I asked him for a roundup on what happened to his race yesterday, and he shouted at me, turn one, boom, turn two, boom, and the left rear was broke. Marshals are recovering the number 21 machine. It is all the argy-bargy at the first corner, and you can see Polderman just, well, nothing really happens to him, does he? It just doesn't go anywhere. You will see again, look out for the white car just on the right-hand side of your shot now. It's all on his own. Just coming out the chicane and it doesn't go anywhere. A number of other cars all taking avoiding action. It was Adrian Schimpf that had gone straight on at the chicane as well and cut the second part of it. Now I'm told that Stefan Polderman's car is out of the way, so we continue with green flag racing. Across the line we go, and it looks like a very healthy lead for David Paget. Marc Guillaume is flying up to the back of his teammate Nicolas Milan. It's so exciting watching these cars in the slipstream. They gain so much time in a straight line, honestly. They really do punch quite the hole in the air. Guillaume's now around the outside of Milan. Now, this is going to hold both of them up, though, if they have to go around there like this. Straight on has gone, I imagine, that is Jusso Pantia. Has gone straight on at the chicane because he was in about 9th place, and it is. He's recovered back onto the circuit, maybe even lost a place or two through all of that. But now Nicolas Milan and Marc Guillaume, cars 1 and 2. Battling away again with Jerzy Spinkovic, fastest and the top of the Challengers Cup drivers at the moment, which is the younger drivers and less experienced drivers on the grid. He's in the white, black and orange unique racing machine with his wonderful team from Poland. Looking down the order to see where on earth Felice Gelmini is, because he's not showing outside the top 40 anyway. He's 36th at the moment, is Gelmini. You can see him there on your timing screen on the left-hand side. A lot of people moving around in the mid-pack as well. Damiano Pacetti has gained a position. Rather tame so far at the moment, especially by Clio Cup standards. But we still have 14 minutes and another lap left to go with this race, so you can bet that things will certainly change. That final lap that we had yesterday after the safety car came in was absolutely balmy, but great entertainment all the same. The drivers that were involved in the incidents that we saw were all absolutely fine, so that's the main thing. But look at them floating sideways, especially Jerzy Spinkovic there, hanging the back end out as they leave Ascari. The front end of these cars doing all of the work. The rear wheels just hanging on, really. You can see in the background there, that's Nikola Milkovic really hugging the white line on the right-hand side of the circuit, trying to keep those tyres cool, trying to get moisture on them wherever he can. Anthony Girardo there with the left rear window, very heavily decorated in the stickers that the drivers are getting given this season for winning races in their particular category. I believe they get podium stickers as well, and there's hundreds of them all over Girardo's window. I quite like the idea of that. It's almost like getting medals. Milan pushing Gio down the straight, giving him a friendly shove. He knows that Mark's going to be changing out of that car come the next race meeting of the season, which is next weekend at Paul Ricard, 15th and 16th of October. Gio still holds on to second. Spinkovic has Torelli monstering the curbs right behind him. And you've got Stuckey and Guillaume Mayo inside the top 10 as well in 9th position. Jusso Pantia's having to work hard to hold off both of the Shimps, which are taking different lines through the chicane. First of which is the 113 of Adrian Schimpf, and Alejandro Schimpf has now just fallen back behind. I believe, is that Lancialotti in there in car 84? It is. So into the Della Roggia chicane again. You can see the cars really squirming around on the brakes as they get into that braking zone. Even though it's a straight line, the back end just wants to break away. There is, oh, well, both Schimpfs again. Different lines through the chicane. Alejandro Schimpf going straight on at the Della Roggia, while Adrian makes a move on Jusso Pantia. It's very friendly here as Nicola Milon goes down the inside of Mark Gio at the first of the Lesmos. And now there's a bit of contact between Spinkovic and Torelli as it all checks up through the second. And now hard on the power as they go down the long run towards Ascari. This is one of the most daunting places on the circuit for a racing driver. Even in the simulator that I usually use, you can feel the sort of tension building up because you know how important Ascari is going to be to get that run down towards the final corner at Curva di Alboreto. And we've got a warning flag going to go out for car 162. That is Alejandro Schimpf. He's going to get told off for cutting the circuit on more than one occasion. But look at them all glued together through Ascari. The weight transfers from the right to the left. Gerardo all over the back of Thomas Pekar. It's good to see Thomas going well again. He didn't qualify too well for yesterday's race, actually. He was all the way down in 17th position, but we know Thomas is very quick. He's a really nice guy as well. I had a good chat with him yesterday afternoon, I should say. And again, multiple different lines being taken here. Drivers trying to get as much of the wet line as they possibly can. And of course, carrying all the speed around the outside of Curva di Alboreto. It's very important. Down the start-finish straight we go, just under 11 minutes left on the clock, and David Pouget, well, he must feel like he's about 11 minutes ahead of everyone. The GPA Racing man is flying at the minute. Solid stuff by him. Everyone else battling behind. Well, they're just making his job easier. It's a very enticing battle all the same. Now, Alejandro Schimpf, I can tell you, hasn't given those places back that he gained earlier by cutting the chicane, so he may get more than just a warning flag for that. As down the inside again, Nicola Milon with Mark Gio there. Jerzy Spinkovic tries to mug the pair of them. There's a bit of contact on the exit as they all overlap with one another. As you see there, battaglia for P2. It certainly is. It is one hell of a battaglia. Gabriele Torelli is in the thick of it still as well, side by side there between Pekar and Gerardo. Gerardo on the right-hand side of the circuit, maybe getting ahead before they get into the braking zone as Spinkovic tries to look down the inside of Gio, and straight on has gone Pouget, straight on has gone Milan, and then straight on again has gone Torelli. It's clearly still treacherous down there on the brakes into the Della Roggia. Gerardo has gone straight on as well. Now, what are they going to do here to sort this out? They're all going to try and slot back into place. They don't want to gain any advantage by doing that. They're not doing that to cheat as such. It's just one of those moments where it's safer to just come off the brakes and concede that you're not going to make the corner. Gio remains ahead of Milan. Remains ahead of Torelli, remains ahead of Pekar. Nicolau was indicating to the left-hand side. Now, I'm not sure whether he's telling Spinkovic to go through or something. And he is moving over. He's making sure that he didn't gain a place. Fair stuff from the reigning champion. But now Torelli thinks, well, might be fair stuff to you in that battle, mate, but I want a piece of this as well. Anthony Gerardo wants a piece of Thomas Pekar. Now, he's going to be getting a little bit impatient here as Anthony Gerardo, the one-handed Anthony Gerardo. He doesn't want to get held up battling with Thomas Pekar when he knows that he's got the pace to be amongst the guys ahead. Thomas isn't making as many advances as Anthony would like at this point in time. You can see them weaving around all the way down the back straight. Unbelievable stuff. Not sure how that's going to get viewed, to be honest, because you shouldn't really move that many times, but still, it's down to them and not me. Nicola Milon round the outside of Spinkovic. He's just going to run him out of room a little bit there, gets him on the painted bit, and Torelli's now got the inside line. Effectively one really long running cutback. He's on the right-hand side of Nicola Milon. Now, he doesn't want to force him over the white line. I say he doesn't want to, he has. Torelli on the right-hand side, he's going to go for second place here. They remain three wide. Spinkovic suddenly looks like he hits a brick wall there and decides not to make it three wide, gets back behind Nicola Milon, then decides against that as well. Big conflict going on in the mind of Jerzy Spinkovic. Girardeau says, right, through the middle, let's go, Nicola, let's push. Pushes the team boss, and all three of them go off the circuit. That's not worked out for you, Anthony. So Pouget continues to lead, disappearing up the road. Guillot and Tirelli now have a free pass to overtake the other guys. Thomas Peccar's going to benefit from that as well. Another car off in the background, I believe that's Matteo Lancialotti. That all seemed to be a little bit silly, though, down the straight, didn't it? They got 3 wide at one point. Tirelli was on the inside, and he was the one that managed to benefit from all of it. Spinkovic, Milan and Girardeau all going straight on. Girardeau put his car in the middle, pushed the team boss. Those two went off, and Spinkovic had to take avoiding action. Speaking of avoiding action, Gabriel Tirelli has to fling the car to the right to make sure it doesn't hit Marc Guillot. Thomas Peccar goes with him as well. Boy, whoever said one-make racing was straightforward. So, let's have a quick recap, shall we? Let's chill for a minute. Pouget, Guillot, Tirelli, Peccar, Milan, Girardeau, Stuckey. Those 7 drivers not corresponding to any sort of Challengers Cup or Gentleman Drivers positions or anything like that to worry about. Spinkovic, top of the Challengers Cup at the moment, followed by Guillaume Mayo, and then Alejandro Schimpf in 10th position. We then have Adrian Schimpf, Yusuf Pantia, Matteo Lancialotti, Nicola Milkovic and Cosimo Papi in the top 15. Christian Ricciarini and Quinto Stefana is the man that currently leads in the Challengers, sorry, the Gentleman Drivers, apologies. It'd be really good to see Quinto get a Gentleman Drivers victory after the difficult race that he had yesterday. As you mentioned, boom in the rear on more than one occasion. So down the back straight once more, in towards the final corner. Tirelli finds himself in 3rd position. As, oh, never mind, 2nd position as Marc Guillot's gone straight on. Stuckey's gone straight on as well. What's happened there to Andreas Stuckey? That was a very odd moment. Hopefully he can keep it going and not get beached. That just seemed like either the front left's gone down or something was broken. Oh, flipping it, that looks uncomfortable. Andreas Stuckey doesn't get Stuckey in the gravel, but still. That was a very, very odd moment, that, for the number 9, and a real shame because he was going very well indeed. Started 5th and was still up there inside the top 10. Now, Thomas Peccar's going for 2nd place here, and, well, he's going for a ride now, straight over the first chicane. No one seems to be able to make the corners here. It's nowhere near as wet as it was this morning, even for qualifying, but just seems so, so treacherous. The drivers just don't have the confidence on the brakes at all. Now, if we had some 5-second penalties come in, there was one earlier on, and now another one for Damiano Pacetti for PMA Motorsport. These penalties getting applied after the race. And suddenly Thomas Peccar finds himself shuffled back in the deck into 5th place. And once again, off the road, straight on at the chicane. I don't think he's going to lose a place to Girardeau in the rejoin, but he needs to stick with Nicola Milan. And this just looks very, very sketchy for some of these guys right now, really struggling to keep the car on the road. Here's another look at some shenanigans down at the first chicane as Henrik Siebel gets a tap. Lovely save, Sunshine. The German driver making a very quick decision there as, oh, goodness me, that's Coldani missing his brakes. Felice Gelmini over the chicane as well. That would have been a very scary moment, especially for Felice. He got hit side on, got T-boned by another car earlier in the weekend that missed its braking point there as well. So I'm sure he was very scared that that was going to be a repeat there. Gelmini has moved up into 29th place. He's not made the progress that Gabriel Tirelli made yesterday, but at the end of the day, in different conditions, very wet conditions, it's hard to do that compared to if you're doing it in the dry when you've got all of the confidence in the car to really throw it at the scenario ahead of you. So Tirelli finds himself in 2nd place, Marc Guillot 3rd, then it's Nicola Milan 4th, and Thomas Peccar in 5th position. And you can sense it. Look at the body language of the cars. You can see them tiptoeing their way around Curva di Alboreto. They really do look like they've not got the confidence. It's down the start-finish straight now. Tirelli is now just weaving around a little bit to try and break the slipstream. It's not quite worked because Guillot has still got the run and he's in the middle of the road now, but on the outside into the first chicane. If he holds the pace around the outside, it'll be the inside for the second part of the chicane. They've both gone a little bit deep. Tirelli doesn't quite benefit from it. Gio gets a really good launch off the corner, actually. Tucks into the left rear corner of Tirelli's car. Tirelli's going to run him out wide. That's not going to go down too well with Gio, but he says, well, if you're going to do that, mate, I'm going to get a cut back down the inside. Watch this. And he's already got his nose in front. That was really wise driving that by Mark Gio. Tirelli maybe just playing a certain trick that he's got up his sleeve here, but he's got 2 Milan competition cars against him. Coldani gets a 5-second penalty. Is up kissing wing mirrors there, Nicolas Milan and his teammate Mark Gio, and Nicolas goes straight on at the chicane. Rejoins in frantic fashion, side by side with Tirelli still. Down the inside at Lesmo 1. Tirelli's going to try and hang it around the outside. Does he do it? I think there's still, there's definitely not an overlap anymore, he says. Thomas Peccar's got a fantastic front row seat for all of this. Well, never mind that, he's climbing on the stage. Right behind Nicolas Milan now, pushing him all the way down towards Ascari. And in the slipstream, he's actually backed out of it. He's decided that discretion is the better part of valour in that situation. He's getting ahead of Tirelli as well, so Gabriel loses another position. Maybe he's planning this one. Maybe he knows that you don't want to be the car that's at the front of a train at Monza when it comes to final laps of the race. David Pouget is going to be absolutely loving life, though. He's completely gone. While all of this is happening behind him, Thomas Peccar left with nowhere really to go there. Gabriel Tirelli back down the inside at Curva di Alboreto. Now, who's going to get the slipstream from Milan here? Because if he moves over to the right, it's going to be Tirelli that gets the run. Thomas Peccar's left with no slipstream whatsoever. Girardo hasn't been able to close in on this battle as much as I know that he would have wanted to. Milan's signalling to Gio to say, I want to go to the right-hand side. It looks even faster when you see it out the window, I can tell you that. Spinkovic isn't too far off the back of these either. He's still leading the Challengers Cup. And Quinto Stefano's still leading the Gentleman Drivers in 21st position. Into the chicane once more. Rear wheels off the ground as they lean in. They all sort it out single file, keep it nice and tidy. Stuckey is still running, by the way. He's just down in 17th place. After losing all that time earlier on at the final corner. Gelmini is up to 24th position. No further advances from him, I'm afraid, at this stage. But look at the lead that David Pouget's got. This is probably going to be one of the easiest drives anybody's ever had at Monza, because we all know when we come here that slipstreaming is the name of the game. And when you're starting at the front, you're always going to be terrified of whatever happens behind you, or whoever comes from further down the order to benefit from the slipstream and gain places. The clock hits 0. We've got one more lap after this one then. Mark Gio holding on to second place at the moment in a car that we're not used to seeing him in. It's Leo Jousset's old car, as mentioned earlier. I told Mark yesterday, don't be gentle, it's a rental. But he seems to have still been treating it very well indeed. There is your race leader, David Pouget for GPA Racing. 2 Milan competition cars behind him. They've just swapped round from whatever grid order they were in, with Gio starting the race on row 2, but now moving up to second. Nicolas Milan down to third, but he is trying to hold off the advances of Gabriel Tirelli, who once again looks like a man on a mission. He finished 4th yesterday from 43rd on the grid. If he finishes 4th from 6th on the grid, I imagine he'll see that as quite an underwhelming race. But he's determined to get on the podium. He's determined to take points out of Felice Gelmini and get back in the lead of Clio Cup Italia. René Steenmetz is all but confirmed as Gentleman Drivers Champion in Clio Cup Eastern Europe, which this is the final round for. Now Mark Gio, ahead of Anthony Girardo, could still clinch this, you know. Yesterday's race, Anthony finished in 2nd position, so he would have had 42 points. I'll have to figure out who else was in that category, though, with them to separate the two of them there, you know, because in that class, I think Gio would have still been in the championship lead as Nicolas Milan and Gabriel Tirelli lean on each other on the exit of the chicane. Now Thomas Peccar comes to play once again. No, sorry, Girardo won in Clio Cup Eastern Europe yesterday because there was nobody else ahead of him in the category, and Guillaume would have been second, so Marc would have had 8 points taken away from his lead, which would have meant he was still 17 points clear. So at this current stage, with how it is, Marc Guillaume would be the 2022 Clio Cup Eastern Europe champion. Marc has so far won 7 different Clio Cup championships across different series. France, Spain, Italy and Central Europe before. He's not focusing on that right now. Neither am I, to be honest. I need to focus on this lot because Marc seemingly has a little bit of a safe pocket of air between himself, between Nicolas Milan and then, of course, Gabriele Torelli, trying now to hold off Thomas Pekar after momentarily attacking Nicolas for position. It's suddenly gone back the other way. Jerzy Spinkovic and Guillaume Mayo are engaged in battle as well. Now, these two are actually fighting for the overall Challengers Cup win in this race. Jerzy Spinkovic is the highest placed Challengers Cup driver out of everybody this year so far. He continues to do an amazing job of it, defends well into Ascari. Guillaume monsters the curbs once again. Gerardo doing the same. Plenty of 10-second penalties coming in. Alejandro Schimpf, Damiano Pacetti and the number 10 car as well, which is normally driven by Lorenzo Nicoli, but it's Antonio Benedetto Silvestrini this weekend. Flashing of the lights by Torelli. He's clearly not happy about something, either that or he's just trying to put Guillaume off. Is Guillaume letting Milan through? Either way, Nicolas got a hell of a run, but out of the final corner, well, no news is good news, but fantastic win for David Pouget. That was absolutely spot on. He will take that one. Lead every lap, lead every corner, get in sunshine. Who's going to take second place, though? It's Nicolas Milan and Marc Guillaume across the line. I think it's going to be Nicolas, you know. I think he might just get it, and he does. A tiny, tiny margin between Nicolas Milan and Marc Guillaume, less than a tenth of a second. Milan gets second, Guillaume third, Torelli fourth, then it's Thomas Pekar, Anthony Girardot, and unbelievably behind, Alejandro Schimpf takes the win in the Challengers Cup. Spinkovic 8th, Mayo 9th, and Adrian Schimpf rounds out your top 10. Quinto Stefana takes the win in the Gentleman Drivers. Very well done to Quinto. But a very tame race on all accounts compared to yesterday's encounter, that's for sure. And it's lovely to see in a way, because I think there were a few people nervous about today after some tempers flared yesterday and the race got very scrappy towards the end. Here's a replay then of the finish line. You can see Nicolas Milan in the white and green car on the right-hand side just gets his nose in front of Marc Guillaume. Fantastic stuff. And then in the background, look, Schimpf is down the inside of Jerzy Spinkovic, and he gets the run out of Curva di Alboreto. Guillaume Mayo tries to go with him to take another position, but that is all that it comes down to. Very, very close indeed. But well done, David Pouget. Pole position, led every lap, took the race victory. Felice Gelmini did the fastest lap of the race on lap 8. Just waiting for the timing screen to cycle through to see where he finished. He was down in 21st place. So not the race that he would have been hoping for after starting that far down, knowing that he could have potentially moved way, way up the order. Well done to Alejandro Schimpf for recovering that one. Although, actually, no, he's going to get a penalty, isn't he? He's going to have a 10-second penalty applied after the race, so I don't think he will hold on to that. So it will go the way of Jerzy Spinkovic, because there was less than a tenth of a second between the two of them across the line. I believe it's going to be Adrian Schimpf that gets the third place in Challengers Cup. Quinto Stefana taking the win in the Gentleman Drivers, though. He is going to be so happy after that. He had a terrible day yesterday. He's really turned it around for this one. René Steenmetz finishes in second. And Frank Horn gets third place in the Gentleman Drivers as well. But there is your race winner, GPA Racing's David Pouget, and as you see by the stickers on the window, many times a race winner this year, and many times a winner in Clio Cup. He's one of the absolute top dogs in this championship, and that's going to help him very nicely in the Clio Cup Europe standings. That's his third win of the season, and the 9th time that he has visited the podium. Here he is into Parc Fermé, and Benedict straight into the window to congratulate him after a lovely, lovely drive. That is exactly what you want from a day at the office, isn't it? Like I said, when you come to Monza, you expect to have a massive train of cars all trying to slipstream from you and take advantage of basically a completely undesirable advantage that you've got. Many a smack on the backside with every Peugeot as well. Excellent race, absolutely excellent. He's a driver that doesn't often have all that much luck, but he certainly did in that one. The guys behind battling just did not seem to want to stop. There was no working together in that, which made it exciting for us to watch, of course. He gave the number 15 a well-deserved race win. It's another very familiar podium as well, with Nicolas Milan second, Marc Guillot in third.
Merci Alex.
And here's a quick look back then at how it all happened. So straight away into green flag conditions, David Peugeot disappeared off over the horizon, and the battles between the teammates, Nicolas Milan and Marc Guillot, started. Hats off to the pair of them though, because regardless of all the battling that they did and all of the cars that got thrown their way, even with a little bit of contact as well, there was still a fantastic advantage for the pair of them, and they were ahead of just about everybody else in the field come the end. Jerzy Spinkovic was trying his luck as well very early on, wasn't he? He seemed to fade away a little bit at the end of the race, but it's easy to overwork the tyres in these conditions. Scary moment from Gerardo trying to make a move on Milan as well there, as the three of them had to take avoiding action and go off the circuit. But everybody carried on. There's the moment for Andreas Stuckey that it all went wrong. The car just going completely straight on at Curva de Alboreto, and I must say hats off to Andreas for not getting stuck in the gravel there, because it would have been very easy for that car to just get beached and not go back in the race. Guillot and Milan were very entertaining all the way throughout that one though, battling time and time again, showing that there's definitely no team orders at Milan competition. While the drivers may be customers of Nicolas, they are certainly racers at heart and continue to battle with each other. Great finish at the end as well. Nicolas just stealing it from Marc across the line, but that all but confirms Marc Guillot as the Clio Cup Eastern Europe champion of 2022 outright. He's been on the podium in the category for every single race this year, and it's very, very well deserved. So there's your result then. David Peugeot from Nicolas Milan. Marc Guillot finishes third ahead of Gabriel Torelli and Thomas Pekar. Anthony Gerardo finishes sixth, with Jerzy Spinkovic classified at the top of the Challengers Cup. Guillaume Mayo next up ahead of Adrian Schimpf, then Nikola Milkovic. Jusso Pantier 11th after Mattia Lancialotti tried it at the very end. And we had Cosimo Papi and Christian Ricciarini in 14th. Andreas Stuckey finishes 15th, with Steve Juif down in 16th place. It's a shame not to have seen him caught up in the action as much as we did yesterday. Luca Franca down in 17th, ahead of Quinto Stefana. And then we had behind him Sandro Subek and Felice Gelmini promoted into the top 20. Then we have Alejandro Schimpf and Giacomo Trebbi, William Mazzetti and Henrik Siebel, Alessio Alcidi behind him, then René Steenmetz, who is now the Gentleman Drivers Champion of Clio Cup Eastern Europe in 26th. Jacopo Chimenez, Julien Bazare, Horn and Vittorio Zadotti round out your top 30. So a very busy grid and a very busy race and pair of races for Clio Cup. The timing screens are now cleared and everybody prepares for the next race of the weekend. We're just going to hang around for a minute and just wait for the podium presentation to get underway. We have the overall podium done on the big grand podium here at Monza, probably the best podium in the world if you ask me, which overhangs the circuit and the pit lane. I've been up there multiple times over the course of the weekend. When you do get a media pass and you do get a chance to go up there and see these things, you really need to. It's absolutely epic. We do have an endurance race later on as well from the Italian ACI GT Championship, which is going on. And I know that that podium is going to be flooded with people excited to watch the start and listen to GT3 cars driven in anger. As you can see, it's a rather chilled grandstand at the moment. The weather conditions putting a little bit of a dampener on things, considering how lovely it was yesterday, but it can always provide exciting racing. I mentioned that Italian GT race, and it seems like that's actually what's about to get underway. Everybody making their way out now by the look of it, but unfortunately nobody making their way up onto the podium just yet. But it is a long old walk from one end of the paddock to the end. We've got just a couple of minutes to wait here before we can get the podium in, before we have to close the show, I've been told. And here we go then, we have at least media personnel making their way up now as well, as you can hear the GT cars setting off from the end of the pit lane in the background. You can hear the flat six engines of Porsches, V10 engines from the Lamborghinis. Sounds excellent. The fans all prepared for the finale of what has been a very mixed weekend of action, to be fair. There's some fantastic cars on show. And there is Marc Guillot. I was going in the wrong order there. Marc Guillot up onto the third step of the podium. Nicolas Milan in the wonderful Castrol overalls. We've got guests here this weekend from Castrol, and I send my best wishes to them, and I hope they're enjoying their weekend. David Pouget takes to the top step of the podium after a very easy looking victory, and his wife Benedict makes her way up as well. And there you go, the French national anthem for David Pouget, and of course for Nicolas Milan and Marc Guillot. But that has been all from Monza here this weekend in the Clio Cup Series. I've been Chaz Draycott. It's been my absolute pleasure. It's my last time commentating on the championship this year, so I hope you enjoy the rest of the season, and I will hopefully see you again very soon. But for now, from everybody here at Monza, it's goodbye.
Now it's time for the moto.